he brought alarming news from Kenneth Keating, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Prime Minister Golda Meir had convoked an urgent meeting with Keating to warn the United States that coordinated Egyptian and Syrian offensives were expected to be launched against Israel in a matter of hours. Meir feared that there was some misunderstanding and wanted Kissinger to convey immediately to Moscow, Cairo, and Damascus that Israel had no intention of attacking its Arab neighbors. She also wanted him to know that she had decided not to preempt the expected Arab attack. At 6:40 a.m., Kissinger called Soviet Ambassador Anatoly Dobrinin, followed by the Israeli chargé d'affaires in Washington, the Egyptian foreign minister, and the Israeli foreign minister. At 8:29 a.m., he received a call from the Israeli chargé to inform him that, 20 minutes earlier, in coordinated attacks, Egyptian and Syrian forces had launched aerial bombardments of Israeli forces on the east bank of the Suez Canal and the Golan Heights. At 8:35 a.m., Kissinger called General Alexander Haig, Nixon's chief of staff. In his deep, gravelly, German-accented voice, he asked Haig to convey to Nixon that we may have a Middle East war going on today. 13 days later, on October 19, 1973, with the war still raging and Israeli forces threatening both Damascus and Cairo, Kissinger embarked on a mission to Moscow and Tel Aviv to negotiate the ceasefire that would end that war and launch a new role for the United States as the broker of Arab-Israeli peace. It was a high-wire act. Richard Nixon was besieged by Watergate troubles and barely functioning. During the previous 2 weeks, Kissinger had managed to compartmentalize his crisis diplomacy, preventing the Watergate contagion from infecting and undermining his efforts. But as Nixon's troubles mounted, the danger grew. It culminated in superpower brinkmanship, in which Kissinger and Nixon's other advisers ordered a DEFCON 3 alert, while the president was sleeping. In this crisis, Kissinger skillfully maneuvered to secure 4 ambitious and somewhat contradictory objectives simultaneously: to ensure the victory of America's ally Israel over the Soviet-backed Egyptian and Syrian forces, to prevent a humiliating defeat of the Egyptian army so that its leader, President Anwar Sadat, would be able to enter peace negotiations with Israel with his dignity intact, to prove to the Arabs that only the United States could deliver results for them at the negotiating table, and to maintain the détente with Moscow, even as he worked to undermine the Soviet position of influence in the Middle East. It was a virtuoso, though occasionally makeshift, performance that opened the way for Kissinger's diplomatic pirouette on the Middle Eastern stage. Over the next 4 years, that exertion, dubbed shuttle diplomacy because of the seemingly endless flights Kissinger made between Cairo, Jerusalem, Damascus, and other Arab capitals, produced 3 more agreements, 2 in the Sinai between Israel and Egypt, and a Golan Heights disengagement agreement between Israel and Syria. In all 3 cases, Israel ceded territory in return for stable interim borders. In the process, Kissinger succeeded in laying the foundations for an American-led effort to resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict. It would lead 2 years later to the Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty, negotiated by President Carter, and eventually to the Israeli-Palestinian Oslo Accords and the Israeli-Jordanian peace treaty consummated under President Clinton. Kissinger's performance was impressive for the vision, strategy, and deftness of America's chief diplomat. Time and again during those 4 years, Kissinger would combine his knowledge of history, his intuitive psychological skills, his sophisticated understanding of the complex balance of power in the Middle East, his willingness to take risks and improvise, and his Machiavellian ability to deploy the levers of influence bestowed upon him by immense American power to maneuver and manipulate the leaders of that troubled region toward peace. It was by no means a flawless performance, as we shall see. At times, he became blinkered by his pursuit of order and stability, missing both warning signs of war and openings for peace. At other times, his success was at least as much the product of the ingenuity or risk-taking of his interlocutors than of his own brilliance. Nevertheless, if diplomacy is the art of moving political leaders to places they are reluctant